assuming that assessment is true, that the belief is that the United States will handle Hamas, the United States will facilitate the desires of Israel, Trump didn't rule out deploying troops. So what kind of operation would this require to try to aid in the displacement of every person there and rebuild the country? And I would note, I can imagine that that would be met with some hostility.
Yeah, to say the least, Laura, I think it would be met with hostility as well. Keep in mind, Hamas still has fighters in Gaza, and they're still fairly numerous in spite of all that Israel has done to destroy that particular guerrilla outfit. So the way it would look, it would be a huge logistical undertaking. Remember the pier that was attempted during the Biden administration that basically failed at the end because of high seas and other logistical issues. That was designed to help with the humanitarian aspect of the Gaza problem. So that's just one small part. There'd have to be a huge airlift that would go in there. The Israelis at any one time kept at least 10,000 troops in Gaza during the height of their efforts, and more, of course, as they rotated through. So you would see a deployment of somewhere between 10 to 20,000 U.S. troops potentially in a situation like this, plus air cover, plus intelligence assets, plus logistical assets of various types. We'd have to bring in Navy assets. So it would be a very large undertaking, and it would be one of the things that would really force us to take the eye off the ball in other areas, such as Ukraine, such as Taiwan, such as other parts of the world where the president has also expressed some interest. So this is a major area that would require a recalibration of U.S. military resources as well as intelligence resources. And it's something that I don't think has been thought out very carefully.
Now, that raises a particularly ominous point, David, the idea of taking one's resources and reallocating them across or focusing on a particular area. What would that portend for other controversies and potential conflicts? But I want to hone in on a point that was earlier raised. Trump said that Jordan, that Egypt, they would, quote, give us the land we need, unquote, to house Palestinians. Now, I recall that both countries have already publicly said that they would never do that. So what would change now?
Well, I'm not sure much necessarily would change. The King of Jordan is supposed to be in Washington next week, and I guess we'll have a chance to hear from him. But he's already got a huge Palestinian population that is in many ways destabilizing to his own country. Just go back for a moment to the point that Cedric was making here. President Trump, in his first run for president, made a big case, understandably so, for ending the forever wars that locked the United States down in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's a little bit surprising to hear him talk about the possibility of a major and what would have to be sustained for 15, 20 years U.S. presence there. It's also going to divide his own administration. He's hired people who believe we shouldn't be in Ukraine or the Middle East. We should be devoting those resources to the Asia Pacific, and particularly to containment of Chinese power, for defending Taiwan. And it's going to be a really interesting argument if this one, continues along those lines. And then to try to convince Jordan and Egypt.